Kim McGrath here from Expressions of the Universe. I thought today I could take a look at Pope Francis's charts for all of you. I would say roughly 10 days to 2 weeks ago, I happened to catch a glimpse of him on the TV and saw that he wasn't looking so good. Very bloated, looked like he was retaining water. Then I found out that he was ill. So I thought, let me pull the charts, take a look at it from a medical astrologer's perspective. And this is what I saw. I'll share that with you in this quick little video. So here is Pope Francis's natal chart. Now, when I was looking at his solar arcs, which is a progressed way of looking at a chart, you'll see that in the third slide, I had to wonder if his time of birth was accurate. And then I found out from a member of an astrology group that I belong to that in South America, they often round up the time of birth to the nearest hour so that it's a whole number. And the reason why I'm saying that is because with solar arcs, an astrologer can determine the timing that something is going to happen. And when I was looking at his solar arcs, I could see things that were coming for him in the next year to 2 years. But if the time of birth is off, every 4 minutes is an entire degree or an entire year in solar arcs. So are these things actually happening now? If he was born closer to, say, 8:45 p.m. versus 9 p.m. And I guess we'll never know. He was born in 1936. At least we do have his date and supposed time of birth. But when I'm looking at a chart for medical astrology purposes, or really even anybody's chart, because I will look and see some prominent things, and if something stands out to me, I'll mention it to the client. I always go and look at what is Saturn doing and what is Mars doing. Mars is the seat of acute illness, things that come and go that may not actually cause a long-term illness. They could be the result of, something else happening in the body that is triggering that particular area. And then Saturn is the seat of chronic illness. So Mars brings inflammation. Saturn usually brings a tightening or a blockage of some sort. Mars in Libra would indicate to me Libra ruling the kidneys, sometimes like the adrenals in that area, and part of the waste and purification system in the body. So anything triggering that could cause a kidney or an elimination problem. And then Saturn in Pisces. Now, Pisces rules the feet and the lymphatic system and the ECM in the body, which is, between the muscle and the bone, the muscle and the skin. It's like, our lymphatic and fluid system. So he could definitely have problems with his feet. I just recently found out that due to sciatica, which would be a Sagittarius thing, I'll talk about that in a second. He's having problems walking. I wouldn't be surprised if he probably has edema in his feet, swelling, but I noticed swelling. So I immediately thought before I even pulled the chart, wow, like his lymphatic system is really backed up. And right now, with so many planets being in Pisces, there is a blockage of lymphatics for everyone. Um, and I just talked about that in my March 2025 Stars and Cards. So you may want to go check that out. Now, the other places that I do look at the sun because that's our vital life force. And the sun in Sagittarius would indicate, if it's triggered, sciatic issues, lower back, hips, the thighs, the femoral artery. So there could be some issues going on there. And then the North Node and the South Node, he has the North Node in Sagittarius. So anything triggering this area in Sagittarius could definitely have an effect on lower back, sciatic, thighs, hips, and femoral artery. Also, I noted with how close the North Node is to his sun, he was born on a solar eclipse. When the North Node is very close to the sun like that, it would be a solar eclipse that he was born under. So eclipses in fire signs, or this is a mutable fire signs, water signs, well, actually any of the eclipses could trigger this area. I don't know how long he's been sick for because I didn't really dive into that. I just went right into the charts. I don't know a whole lot about him, to be honest. I did hear, I think yesterday or the day before, that he has double pneumonia. And I don't know how you have double pneumonia if you only have one lung, because I did hear that he had one lung removed when he was younger. Anyway, the South Node, that's where energy is leaving. That is in Gemini, and Gemini rules the lungs. It rules the shoulders, the arms, all the different capillaries that are connected. So think of anything that is connecting in your body, your fingers and your hands, connected to your arms. That's all Gemini related, and the lungs. And I know that Jupiter is currently in its detriment, transiting through Gemini. So that's its worst placement. So I thought, ooh, that's not good. He also, now this is not something that stands out, but it can be a contributing factor. Chiron, the wounded healer, is in Gemini, right with his North Node. I'll also take a look at what is the moon in. It's in Aquarius. So that rules the lower legs and circulation. So there could be triggers with that. I also take a look at, well, what's his rising sign? Cancer. So that's very fluid, fluid based. That rules the eyes and the stomach, but also Cancer. So really, those are the main things that I look at in a natal chart to see what are the possibilities of, you know, somewhere down the road, a health issue cropping up for a particular person. Those are the things that I'm basing it on. So then I pulled up, so this is on February 14th. I pulled up his chart along with the current transits. Now, when I am looking at medical issues, everybody's going to have something in their chart, in their natal chart, that could be triggered. And the planets are constantly going around the skies and triggering all of the planets in all of our charts. That doesn't mean that when a planet is aspecting our charts, that we will be triggered. We have to look for, when I say that, astrologers, medical astrologers, we look for multiple testimonies, multiple things happening in the chart. Now, I have South Node in Sagittarius, and when the South Node was in Sagittarius a few years ago, I ruptured the L1 and L2 in my lower back in the discs. And it was about a year and a half, and that's how long that transit lasts, of excruciating pain and physical therapy. And now I'm fine. That comes around every 18 years, and I've never had an issue with it before, but it just so happened now that I'm older, and I think that often happens with people when they get older, then the planets start to trigger things. So I look for multiple testimonies or aspects and statements within a chart to say, hey, something is going on here. This doesn't look good. So when I talked about Jupiter transiting Gemini, so think about this: Gemini ruling the lungs. We know that he had bronchitis. Now it's gone into pneumonia. Jupiter is in its worst placement in Gemini, and it's headed towards his Chiron and South Node. So I immediately thought, okay, you know what? That could be an issue. Now, remember, I looked at this a couple of weeks ago. Jupiter makes things bigger, makes things worse, but it has to be aspected by something else, right? Jupiter is trining his natal moon. So there's a hit there. I noticed that he just went through his third Saturn return, which is not a terrible thing. I think the older we get when we go through these Saturn returns, not bad. I just went through my Saturn return. Ironically, my Saturn is at 16 degrees, 35 minutes of Pisces. His is at 16 degrees, 30 minutes. So shout out to the Pope on that. We have similar Saturns. Saturn in life shows us, like what we should be doing in our lives. Saturn in Pisces, service to others often, self-sacrifice. But that could have been a health trigger for him. Now, you can see with these transits, we have a lot going on in Pisces. And that's where I was talking about the trapped lymphatics. And, just the fact that there is so much energy in Pisces. Maybe that's why I saw the bloating in him. Now, Jupiter opposes his natal sun and north node. That's not good, especially with Jupiter being in its detriment or worse placement. It's not, it's a very wide orb right now. So I was expecting we wouldn't really see anything until, what did I write? April 24th, where it would make, April 24th and May 14th, where it would make direct contact to these planets. But maybe because he is older, the wider orb is even, bringing that energy. Not sure. Now, these Pisces planets, I have to point out, and I didn't write it here, but they square the Gemini house. So all of that Pisces energy is making a square, which is tension, inflammation to the Gemini mansion. Happens to be that the 12th house and the 6th house are the houses of health. And so that kind of concerned me, especially when we have our sun and north node in the 6th house of health. Now, that could be good. That could show a life of longevity. But when you're having triggers in the chart and you've got South Node and Chiron in the 12th house, and then something comes through that 12th house, it could really be detrimental. The 12th house typically rules hospitals and institutions, people passing. So, and Jupiter also represents people passing. Um, I'm not saying that that is going to be the case because, he does and is getting the best possible medical treatment that anybody can get. Celebrities and famous people and political figures, they get the best healthcare possible. And that's why often they live so long. So I'm not saying that. I'm just saying this is how I'm seeing these things happening in his chart. The other thing that concerned me now, I just talked about his Mars in Libra, and that can contribute to inflammation and issues with the kidneys. Well, we've had Mars in Cancer transit retrograde for the past few months now. And on February 23rd, Mars stationed direct. Well, that makes a square to his natal Mars. When a planet is going from retrograde to direct or direct to retrograde, the energy in that planet is intensified about a week on either side. And so, we could see that he winds up having some major kidney issues, which would then exacerbate the lymphatic system from draining if his kidneys are not filtering the fluids and the blood in his body. Uh, Also, too, Cancer rules the blood. And as with uh, Cancer rules the blood, well, Aries and Cancer share a lot of different elements when it comes to medical astrology. But you have to remember Mars is a hot fire planet, and this is bringing inflammation and steam to this area. It's like it's building up. Now, Mars will start to move ahead, but not until May. It it stays in Cancer for quite some time. It doesn't pick up momentum for a little while. So that kind of concerns me because that square is just going to be beating down on the Pope's kidneys over and over and over again. I also don't like the fact that it is in the fourth house because the fourth house is considered the end of the matter. So ultimately, if he gets over this lung issue, does the kidney issue become his demise? I don't know. Mars will square exactly at 19 of Cancer on March 15th. So see, it's going to take some time for it to even gain momentum out of this retrograde. Is there anything else that I haven't written on here? Now, Pluto, it's moving so slow, it will not hit his Venus or his moon. But it's in Aquarius, so we would be looking at the fixed signs. Now, I will say, when Mars gets back into Leo, it will make an opposition exactly on April 26th. I don't have it written here. That could not be good for him. So I feel like he's not out of the woods for quite some time, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Now I'm going to look at the solar arc chart, and this is where I said, if his time of birth is not absolutely correct, every 4 minutes that it's off by can equal 1 year in this type of method. So this is his natal chart. This is the solar arc, which advances each of his planets 1 degree for every year that he's been alive. And then we have the transits. So when I was looking at this, we can see his solar arc Chiron is at 18 degrees, natal is at 20. So that would say to me, that's going to become exact in about 2 years. It's pretty much for his entire chart. Everything will be lining up and making a conjunction in about 2 years' time. But if his time of birth is off, those things could be happening right now. So it's really hard to say um, without absolute certainty that 9 p.m. is his birth time. That's what got me questioning whether or not he was actually born earlier, which would then uh, align. Well, no, maybe born a little bit later, and then that would align these planets up right now at this time. I don't know. His birthday is December 17th, so he just had a birthday, but still, this could provide some additional tension for him, or it could bring him very good health. We will just have to wait and see how that turns out. Um, I don't know. So if he does make it out of, I'm going to stop sharing. If he does make it out of this illness that he's going through, then we have all of his planets coming into a conjunction in about the next less than 2 years from now. Roughly, what, 22 months from now, and we'll start to see something happening and something going on. So comment me, let me know what you thought about this, and if you would like to see more of these with, famous people in the news, people in the world, and I'll be happy to pull those charts and do it for you. Comment me and check out my other videos. Make sure you subscribe and like my videos so that you get notified when I'm posting new content. Thanks for watching. Bye.